Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, because Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix on women's MMA. We've got you covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel, and hopefully you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, I hope you're doing fine for yourself during a time of major uncertainty. And I just checked up the news earlier today. I'm not going to specify what happened on the news today, because there's a whole lot of negativity going on right now. So I'll be talking about Invicta FC 42. And so this will be the first time I'll be covering an actual Invicta event here. And this is a night full of really fun action. Honestly, really enjoyed it. Really loved it from beginning to end. From beginning to end, it was a fun show. And I recommend people to go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. So we have I'll talk about from the main event, then I'll climb down from main event, co-main event, then all the matches, the mid-card matches, and then the opening match. I'm talking about all the fights here from Invicta FC 42. But the main event here was Ashley Cummins against Alisha Zapatella. Oh man, this was a proper head-scratcher fight. And when I mean head-scratcher fight, I meant that by the time the fight ended, you really didn't know what to really think about both fighters. You could really see the fight result in a rematch. We could see a rematch between both Ashley Cummins and Alisha Zapatella here. But I'm going to start from the beginning here for the main event. And so, first thing that happens, even before the actual main event, the co-main event happened, and then we cut through to the very cringy promos here. I normally am not a fan of cringy promos. Like, I'm pretty much am supportive of when there's a narrator out there, or we're getting sound bites from fighters, or we get a couple seconds of, a fighter saying something like, yeah, I'm going to go and beat him first round, first round KO in the first round, but, something like that. I really don't like it when we are just straight up seeing someone cut a promo on camera. Not only that, they're cutting a promo on a green screen, a really bad looking green screen, and it's very awkward because first thing I write in my notes here is cringy Alisha Zapatella promo. So the camera, maybe the TV broadcasts, I studied broadcast journalism, and so stuff like headroom, Excel shots, MS shots, they matter to me. Like doing interview, it was a project for us to go out there and conduct multiple interviews with people, and our teacher would rib us. He'd be like, okay, this is how you exactly do the interviews, this is how you do the lighting setup, this is how you conduct yourself in an interview, this is what you're supposed to say, this is how you film stuff, this is how the audio level is supposed to be for interviews. Like, giving me the full-on course of how to do interviews for like a TV, or for a TV studio, or, for a movie or whatever. And so, Zapatella here, the camera is close up on her face, where she has little to no headroom. Like, the top of her head is a wee bit cut off. It's a wee bit cut off. And so you're seeing this very uncomfortable close-up of Alisha Zapatella. And there's Zapatella. And then Zapatella cuts this promo where she's like, yeah, man, I'm the big deal here. I'm a big problem, and you better watch out. Like, she looked so awkward. She's like, yeah, I'm the real big thing here, and you better watch out, Cummins, because, and she says this, literally, nothing's gonna stop me from getting that atomweight belt, because Cummins versus Zapatella is for the Invicta FC atomweight belt. And personally for me, I'm a huge dork like this. I hate it when people use the word literally in a non-comedic way, or they're using the word literally in a wrong way. Zapatella's like, there's literally nothing gonna go between me and getting that belt. Literally. No, don't say literally. Just say, I'm going to do everything I can to go and win that belt. But you just don't put literally in that sentence because you sound like an idiot. And now we go to Ashley Cummins here. Ashley Cummins, I put in my notes here, chill promo. Because she had a chill promo. Because Zapatella is like, hey, guess what, Cummins? I'm the real deal. And there is like literally nothing that's going to go and stop me coming your way. And like Zapatella has like this like Californian accent going on. Even though she's from Oregon. But she definitely has an accent going on there. While Cummins, being totally chill, laid back, she has headroom. And she's like, yeah, I went through an injury. And I'm going to win. Yep. It's like Zapatella overdoes it with the effort, and then Cummins has no effort in her promo and is way too chill. So we got the spectrum of very excited, very threatening, and then we got threatening but kind of chill about it. It was awkward. And so I got my notes. Zapatella comes out to girls just want to have fun, and I'm happy about that because I am so sick and tired of every fighter I see come out to music that's like pretty generic, like generic rap music or some late 80s rock music, like Thunderstruck, like ugh. And so, first round starts in. By the way, I love Alisha Zapatella's nickname here. It was like Little Mighty, something like that. Zapatella had a very unique nickname here that always made me laugh every time I hear it. And so it's time given time here. Oh yeah, half pint. So the announcer was like, coming in from this corner, weighing in and at the height, and it shows her height. She's not even 5 foot. She's 4'11", and then on her chest that she's wearing, like on her like chest piece she's wearing, it says half pint, and there's a box. Like the words half pint is inside this little square box, and so it's like, so you got this girl here, 4'11". Her name is called Half Pint. The commentary team are giggling every time they say the word half pint. And as she's coming out, she's dancing to her own music, and her own music is Girls Just Want to Have Fun. It was ecstatic. It really was. And then we have Cummins coming in. She came into this, like, I think early 90s rock music. I remember if you play the song, I know it though, but I can't say what the exact name of the song is. And so, round 1, Cummins immediately stuns Zapatella with right hands twice. Zapatella goes for a risky takedown, but Cummins shouldn't have gone for a guillotine choke here because Cummins obviously is the better striker. Every single striking exchange, Ashley Cummins is winning. It's obvious straight up like 2 minutes into the fight that Alisha Zapatella has no business standing up with Ashley Cummins. And so Alisha Zapatella, her being the grappler, guess what she does? Well, she goes for a takedown. But Zapatella goes for a super risky takedown that, upon watching it again, everyone and anyone would agree that takedown was so... it was not a good takedown because Cummins stuffed it. Ashley Cummins stopped the takedown, but then she allowed herself to get on her back just so she can attempt a guillotine choke. And this comes in to bite her again in the 4th round. This risk for... Zapatella took a risk going for a takedown. Cummins could have easily stood up, but she didn't, and she attempted a guillotine choke. And then Cummins gets up, but Zapatella goes in for hip toss onto Zapatella. So... No, Zapatella goes in for a hip toss onto Cummins. So by the end of the fight, it looked like Zapatella won. But then again, in the grand 5 minutes of the fight here, she won about a minute and 15 seconds into the first round. I mean, the end of the first round here. And then the commentary team were talking about it because, unlike UFC and unlike Bellator, they show the actual scorecards. It's not a mystery. Like the fighters and the commentary team, everybody knows what the scorecards are after the first round. And so 2 judges scored the victory going towards Cummins, while 1 judge scored it towards Zapatella. And one of the ladies in the commentary team, she wanted to say that there definitely is like biasness in the late rounds. It always looks impressive if a fighter is the one on top and winning in the final minute, though. But then again, it brings up the question: who do you reward winning a round? Do you reward winning a round to the fighter who dominated for the majority of the fight? Or do you award the fighter who, in the very end, is doing their best? And then we go into... so, Cummins wins the first round. 2 judges scored it towards Cummins. So Zapatella runs in at Cummins. She just sprints right ahead then, and Cummins stuns her immediately with her right forearm. But then Zapatella clinches in with Cummins, but she fends off a leg trip. Like Zapatella is constantly trying to put her foot down. One thing that Cummins did really well for herself is that whenever Zapatella was going in for the clinch or going for a takedown, she would lean on the cage and then she would underhook both of her arms onto the arms of Zapatella. So it would make the takedown and the hip toss a lot more difficult for her, and she was able to fend off the takedown multiple times because of this. So high fight IQ Cummins at that moment. So Cummins gets 2 clean right haymakers again. Zapatella runs at Cummins and goes for yet another clinch, but Cummins avoids the clinch and continues to go find some good counter punches. There was a scenario where Cummins did pull off a 3-punch combo that would there's 3 haymakers, no jabs, just 3 straight up haymakers onto Zapatella. Zapatella eats it, and then she presses forward. Cummins is such a better striker by miles. She had the better leg kicks. She did better in the dirty boxing. She did better in the stand. She did better in jab. She did better in a hook. She did better on her counter punches. For the most part here, Zapatella was the one trying to apply the pressure on Ashley Cummins, but Cummins has got an answer for everything Zapatella had on the stand-up. And then Cummins, whenever she clinches, gets double underhooks, preventing Zapatella from getting takedowns. Ashley Cummins obviously wins unanimous decision in the second round. They all score Ashley Cummins winning the second round. And then we get to the third round here, and Zapatella is able to take down Cummins straight up immediately within the first minute. And so at this point here, even though Zapatella should be gassed at this point, Cummins starts making some very questionable decisions here. For the better part of 4 minutes, near 4.5 minutes, it was mostly Zapatella on side control of Cummins. She's there on side control, raining down sharp elbows from side. She's trying her best to go get onto mount, but it's not really working well for her. So she's just staying there. She's switching in between half guard. She has half guard and side control. She tries to go for north-south, not really working well for her. She tries to go on mount, not working well for her. So she's just raining down these elbows that honestly are not really doing that much damage onto Cummins. But at this point here, Cummins is just getting exhausted and overwhelmed by Zapatella. She's still under control. She's not that gassed. She's not that tired. Her cardio is really good. It just she couldn't really keep up that pace. And so we get to the fourth round here. Fourth round, Zapatella, no fear, blitzes right in to Ashley Cummins. Just runs right at her, goes for a takedown. And no. She doesn't. Yeah, she attempts a takedown. Cummins stuffs it. Cummins stuffs a takedown, and then she attempts another guillotine choke. She purposely placed herself again in a bad position, and because she was attempting a guillotine choke with her left arm, and her right arm is trapped by Zapatella, so there's no way she'd be able to get the guillotine choke in. And so Zapatella recognizes this, and that Cummins is essentially fighting her off with one arm. And then Zapatella, she goes in and wins with a Von Flue choke and becomes a new Invicta FC atomweight champion. Really stellar fight between both fighters here. I seriously question Ashley Cummins' decision-making ability there. It's very similar to Rose Namajunas when she lost to Jessica Andrade, in that she was super close in getting a submission victory the first time, that she attempted it again the second time, but her opponent made adjustments this time, which prevented Ashley Cummins from winning the fight, and it placed her in a really bad scenario. Rose Namajunas, she placed herself in a bad scenario twice, and the second time she did it, she ended up getting slammed to the ground and losing. And in this scenario, she attempted a guillotine choke that had no business. She had no business even attempting a guillotine choke against somebody who was significantly a better grappler than her in Zapatella. So Zapatella, she wins with a Von Flue choke. She stands up. She's very excited. I am happy for her. I say right now that these two should go for a rematch. They should go for a rematch because first and second round, without a doubt, Cummins won. Third and fourth round, that was all Zapatella. And we honestly wouldn't know how the fifth round would go. And I'd be definitely interested to see both of these fighters go at it again, because I still believe Ashley Cummins is a better fighter than Zapatella, even though Zapatella is the current atomweight champion. It just Cummins made a series of wrong decisions that resulted in her loss. And so you're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast. Coming back right after a short break here as I'm covering Invicta FC 42.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info. Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. You are listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, and I am discussing Invicta FC 42. Main event was completely stellar. It was a stellar, fun main event. You didn't know where it was going to go, but Alisha Zapatella is the new Invicta FC atomweight champion. She defeated Ashley Cummins in a huge comeback victory there. To be honest with you, with the way how the fight was going on, I really didn't think that Alisha Zapatella would go get the comeback. I thought the third round, although Zapatella won the third round, I could have easily seen Ashley Cummins. She made the adjustments where she's like, okay, I understand what I need to do here. I am capable of stuffing the takedowns. Just don't let myself do that. And Ashley Cummins, she allowed herself to go get taken down in order to attempt a guillotine choke, just like what she did back in the first round. Didn't pan out for her in the end here. I'm happy for both fighters though, and I expect both of these two to go fight each other yet again, because I do believe, honestly, that if Ashley Cummins were to fight Alisha Zapatella again, I would place my money on Cummins. I thought Cummins was winning the fight up until the third round. And if these two were to fight again, I think Cummins can make the readjustments. And it's easier, I believe, for Cummins to make the readjustment for Zapatella's grappling than it is for Zapatella's adjustment for Cummins' striking. So let's talk about the co-main event here, to which we have Raquel Canuto against Lisa Verzosa. Lisa Verzosa, known for her fight against Stolienko earlier this year. And if you guys haven't seen it yet, I said the two best fights of the entire year were Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Weili Zhang and Lisa Verzosa against Julia Stolienko. You need to watch both of those fights, and both of those fights happened within the span of, I think, 3 days apart from each other, or within the same week. Stellar. And so Canuto is returning back after 3 years focusing on, so she left her career in MMA to focus primarily on BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and not just her. There are multiple fighters here coming back from long breaks. Canuto is just poking at Verzosa's she's poking Verzosa with leg kicks over and over again. Verzosa, she really isn't pressing or pressuring Canuto at all. For the most part, it's Canuto coming in towards Verzosa and is poking over and over again with leg kicks, body kicks, long jabs, leg kick, side kick. But Verzosa, though, she's landing the better looking shots. It would be, how do I compare this right now? But in this scenario here, because the commentary team, throughout the entire night, not just this fight, they were questioning a lot about the judges' scorecards, and I questioned it also. I was very confused about the scorecards as well. I would love to have explanations. Here's the thing. I want each round, the breaks between each rounds to be just a little bit longer. Just have them sit next in the corner a little bit longer, and then have the judges just give us like a short, like, I don't know, 2-3 sentence summary as to why they believe X won the round. Just that only, like 2-3 sentences only. Not that difficult. You can write 2-3 sentences within the span of a minute. So just give a minute, 2-minute extra minutes of break time for the two fighters. And then I would like to see the explanation given to the commentary team, and they're going to relate to the judges as to why so-and-so won a certain round. And in this scenario here, I thought Canuto won the first round. But the judges scored it Lisa Verzosa winning in the first round. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, why? Well, it's because Verzosa, her shots did look a lot more better, a lot more cleaner. If you're to say, who here accumulated more damage? Who here was more damaged from this fight? Without a doubt, Raquel Canuto. Lisa Verzosa, she took all these kicks, but it never really impacted her movement, though. And I think the fact that Canuto's kicks laid no actual impact to Lisa Verzosa's fighting style, or her adjusting her game in the fight, led to the judges being like, alright, so yeah, Canuto is landing these kicks, but these kicks aren't really impacting anything compared to Lisa Verzosa landing some really good looking counter shots here. Like, every time Verzosa landed something, it looked painful. Every time Canuto landed something, yes, it's in terms of volume and accumulation, the fight stats are in support of Canuto. She attempted more strikes, she landed more strikes. But how impactful and meaningful are those strikes, though, if it doesn't at all affect Lisa Verzosa throughout 3 rounds of action here? And so second round, Canuto does the same thing she did in the first round. She continues poking again with the leg kicks. Canuto starts bleeding from the nose from the clean counter strikes of Verzosa. Verzosa's strikes, man, they're so accurate. They're so accurate right now. Raquel Canuto barely landed any shots that mattered, at the very least, or looked like it did anything against Lisa Verzosa in terms of the head. She laid in some side kicks, but for the most part, they just pushed her. Her leg kicks, whenever I see a fighter do leg kicks, the end result is the person whose legs are being kicked, their legs start turning red or pinkish. I didn't see this at all. I just didn't see it. Here's the thing. Canuto, her leg kicks were more like push kicks more than anything else. And I think that's another reason as to why judges scored it towards Verzosa. Because there's one thing to do body kicks, like you're kicking somebody in the hips. It's another thing to go and do push kicks. Like, she's doing push kicks on Lisa Verzosa, even though Lisa Verzosa is, for the most part, backing away through all the exchanges. So the leg kicks don't really do much, and not only that, she's doing these leg kicks on, like, the upper thigh of Verzosa, and she's doing side kicks on, like, the lower thighs, on like, the high thighs of Verzosa. So it's not really impacting all that much of the fight. So Verzosa gets the second round. Verzosa starts in the third round with clinch pressuring onto Canuto. She starts clinching with her, pressuring her up in the for the first minutes. And then Canuto, after the 1 minute mark of the third round, starts doing what she normally does. Push kicks. She's trying to constantly tag Verzosa here, trying to accumulate as many strikes as she possibly can in order to look good for the judges. But in the very end, though, Lisa Verzosa ends up winning the fight via split decision. She ends up winning the fight via split decision, and if you haven't checked it out already, check out her post-fight press conference, her post-fight interview. Aw, man, dude. So chill, so humble, so nice. Raquel Canuto, though, she aesthetically looked good in the fight, if that makes any sense. In that she was sort of doing the right moves. She was fighting the right way. She fought the smart fights against Verzosa. It's just, to the eyes of the judges, it didn't really matter that much. And when you think back to this fight, or when you rewatch this fight again, Canuto's striking really didn't really matter. Like Lisa in her post-fight interview was like, yeah, man, I'm totally fine. I'm perfectly good, dude. I don't feel anything. So, but you compare that to Canuto, whose face is kind of swelling up, while Verzosa is just perfectly fine. She's not limping. She's not holding her tummy. She didn't really, even the commentary team said it. It looked like Verzosa took little to no actual damage in the fight. She got hit, But did the hits actually play a part into Verzosa's fighting? No, not really. It just didn't. That's why Lisa Verzosa was able to win the fight after 3 rounds of action by split decision. I still question the judges, though. But then again, it's understandable as to why the judges would score it towards Verzosa and not towards Canuto. And they're gonna fight. We got Erika Tribricio against Jessica Delboni. I'm thinking, would this be the best fight of the night? I guess it would be the best. Wait, let me look it now. So either that or Liz. No. I say Liz Tracy versus Victoria Leonardo is the best fight of the night. But we got Erika Tribricio against Jessica Delboni. Tribricio is landing some nice counter punches while Delboni is applying the pressure. Delboni clinches, but Tribricio lands a good knee, but Delboni wins the first round here. Yeah. So for the most part here, it really is just a lot of the pressuring, man. The pressure fighting of Delboni. And although Tribricio is landing some good counter strikes, though, the sheer high volume, and the difference between Jessica Delboni's high volume strikes and accumulation and how the fight stats support her, and it's not fake compared to Raquel Canuto's, was the fact that Canuto was applying the pressure on Lisa Verzosa, but it always looked like Verzosa always had Canuto's number in all the 50-50 striking exchanges. Like, whenever it came to a moment where both fighters are in the middle of, like, throwing out hard shots at each other, Verzosa was winning. And in this scenario here, Jessica Delboni, she pressured the heck out of Tribricio so much that there was no way Tribricio's clean counter punches would matter that much in the end here, because Jessica Delboni's pressuring looked a lot good. For Canuto, she would throw in a leg kick that didn't look like it did enough damage on Verzosa. For Delboni, when she pressured on Tribricio, she would throw in these insane jabs and look really painful on Tribricio. So Delboni continued to apply the pressure in the second round. She won the second round, and then, man, Delboni, man, she completely picks her apart, dude. Completely picks her apart, goes for the clinch game, throwing out right haymakers, right hooks, throwing out these really good combinations. And at this point, really, Tribricio, she's out of it. I believed that Tribricio's cornermen really should have thrown the towel after the second round. With the way how the fight was going and where the momentum is shifting right now, Jessica Delboni had all the momentum carrying for her. She decisively won the first round. She decisively won the second round. Tribricio is just tired at this point. She's tired. She's gassed. She can't keep up with Delboni's pressure. She can't wrestle her. So Delboni pretty much clinches and strikes her the entire way. And then in the end of the third round, it ends off with Delboni giving a hip toss slam onto Tribricio. So, winner of the fight after 3 rounds of action by unanimous decision, Jessica Delboni. Really good showcase there by Delboni. It didn't look good for Alisha Tribricio, and really, this was Alisha Tribricio versus Jessica Delboni and Raquel Canuto versus Lisa Verzosa really are such similar fights. They're super similar fights, except the one who's doing the pressure fighting actually applied a lot of pressure, not I'm just gonna tap you and poke you sometimes with a couple leg shots, and then even though it's not gonna do any damage, or it's not gonna gas you out, or it's not gonna make you rethink your strategy, because Alisha Tribricio, who she was in the first round versus who she ended up being in the third round, two entirely different fighters. Lisa Verzosa, from beginning to first round and to the end of the third round, very, very, the same fighter. They're the same fighter. It was very different for Tribricio. Same for Lisa Verzosa. So it was. Canuto really needs to take a page out of Jessica Delboni, and she should have threw her hands a lot more. Yes, Lisa Verzosa, I would say, is a better boxer than Raquel Canuto, but Raquel Canuto is much more of a dynamic striker compared to Verzosa, and I felt like if she could mix it up just a little bit more instead of going for push kicks the entire time, there's a real possibility Canuto could have won the fight, and it would have not been as close with the split decision loss. And before I go to the commercial break here, I just want to talk about the scorecard system here super quickly here. Because one thing I really didn't get, what I really didn't get though, was because that the cornermen and the fighters and the commentary team, essentially everybody knows who the actual winner is for these rounds here. I don't really get why fighters don't make adjustments. Because for Canuto, she made slight adjustments in the third round. she made very slight adjustments. According to the commentary team, she knew that she wasn't doing well for herself in the rounds. So that's why Canuto, she was a little bit more aggressive in the third round. But the problem, though, was that in the third round, Canuto, she was being very aggressive. I say right now, Canuto, the only round, at least in my opinion, that she definitively won was the third round. That was about it. She definitely won the third round. Judges thought that she lost in the first and second round. And I thought to myself that, well, why didn't Canuto make the adjustment earlier in the second round? Because by the third round, since she now knows that she's expected to lose if she keeps up the pace, I don't get what's going on with her in the second round. Like, she knew she didn't win the first round, so why didn't she make any adjustments or do something different in the second round? Instead, she fought the exact same way in the first round, and it wasn't until in the middle of the third round, it was like, okay, I need to stop doing these push kicks, and I need to start laying in some strikes, some actual legitimate strikes, and let me go do something. Alright then, let me go do something here that's different, because for the most part, she fought the same way, and not just her also, but including other fighters here in the entire card here, and that they don't make adjustments, and I always believe that if you do know how the judges are scoring the fights, then it's more likely you would try to make the effort, more of an effort, to go adjust yourself in the fights. You'd go make more of an effort to adjust yourself in the fights, and then after, when you know that you won the following round, then you can go be committed to it. Here, though, she was committed to fighting the exact same way after the first round. Not sure what was going on with there. I thought that I believe the cornermen should have done better relaying information out to their fighter. But hey, that's just me. And so coming back right after a short break here, I'll be covering the rest of the fight card here for Invicta FC 42 right here at the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast. I'm your host, Arnel, and I am discussing Invicta FC 42. And I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, what I believe to be the fight of the night. We had Liz Tracy versus Victoria Leonardo. I got notes here that Tracy's coming back after a year handling her meniscus surgery. And this entire card is full of weird shakeups and matchups here that are very puzzling to me. For instance, we got the first fight here. We have Helen Peralta against Jennifer Chang. Helen Peralta had 24 hours notice to fight. Liz Tracy is coming back after over a year recovering from an injury. And then we got not Ashley Cummins, but we got Raquel Canuto. Raquel Canuto has been gone for about 3 years. And so what's going on? We have a lot of fighters here popping in and out right now for Invicta FC. But Liz Tracy here, she's coming back after a year handling her meniscus injury. And honestly, she looks perfectly fine. She looks good. I wouldn't even know that she had an injury in the first place. But Leonardo, she's pressuring Tracy on the cage with clinches. But commentary, they just bag on Jennifer Chang a lot though. For the most part in the first round, it was like, alright, Liz Tracy, Victoria Leonardo, they're fighting, they're trying to feel each other out a wee bit then. And then when Leonardo came over to Liz Tracy, started doing clinching, you're like, oh wow, look how good Liz Tracy is avoiding the clinch and getting out from the back of getting her back off the cage. Wow. Unlike Jennifer Chang there, you can really tell how good of a fighter Liz Tracy is compared to Jennifer Chang. So it went on for like just about a minute and a half of them just grabbing the shuffle and burying Jennifer. As in like, yeah, man, that first fight we saw with that one fighter, yeah, she wasn't all that well. But this girl, yeah, she's a real fighter here. It just didn't really sound that all well. It didn't just sound good at all. I felt bad for Jennifer. I'll be talking about the opening fight here between Jennifer Chang and Helen Peralta. But pretty much, they're both checking each other out. They're feeling each other out. Leonardo, in my opinion, is currently winning the fight at this moment, actually, because she has a greater reach. Liz Tracy, she's doing some head movement, though, but the huge issue, and it was very evident in the first round here, and that Tracy just couldn't close in the gap. She couldn't close in the gap, and Victoria Leonardo is the one pressuring Tracy. So we have Tracy here, who's defensively trying to box, despite the fact she has a much more shorter reach. She's much more shorter in terms of size and stature. So Leonardo is slowly picking apart Tracy with her length. But Tracy, though, she's still trying to like fight back. The two do start striking at the center of the octagon, at the center of the cage. But Leonardo, though, the pressure is getting towards Tracy, and it's hard. Yeah, Tracy, she's coming back with some really good shots. I'll say right now, Tracy, she is fighting back against Leonardo, and she's looking good. She is, but not good enough for her to win the first round. Tracy gets the two are striking each other in the center. Tracy gets a takedown, but Leonardo reverses it and pressures Tracy with a clinch. So I thought Leonardo won the first round, but officially, according to the scorecards, Tracy won. And I thought to myself, how? And the commentary team also thought of it, how? How the heck did Liz Tracy win the first round? And one guess as to why Liz Tracy why the judges think she won that round was because A, takedown, so there's recency bias there already because the fight pretty much ended there. But then Leonardo, she reversed it, and then got clinch control on Tracy and brought to the cage. But then Tracy, she had better looking shots, but it wasn't like so. Liz Tracy and Victoria Leonardo, it's very different, very very different from Raquel Canuto versus Lisa Verzosa, because while Canuto was doing all these push kicks, Leonardo was banging with Liz Tracy in the center of in the center. She was going at it, man. Like they were both equally throwing out similar strikes, equally dishing out ice. In my opinion, how I saw through the eye test here, Leonardo was dealing out some significant damage onto Liz Tracy to the point that Liz just at one point was stunned in the first round, and she really couldn't find a way to close in the gap against Leonardo. So I believe Leonardo should have won that because both the eye test and also through the fight stats, to which Leonardo just landed a lot more strikes than Tracy, I thought Leonardo won the first round. But apparently that didn't really happen. So Tracy gets a takedown, but Tracy attempts another takedown. Leonardo reverses it and goes for a clinching game, which leads to her own takedown. Tracy almost gets a single leg key lock in on Leonardo, but Leonardo gets out. Tracy does better in the striking exchanges. I chose Tracy winning second round, but apparently Leonardo won second round, and commentary team are baffled. It makes no sense. I thought Leonardo won the first round. I believe Leonardo won the first round. I think both the eye test and the stats say Leonardo won the first round. But apparently she didn't. And then I get to the second round. Tracy is fighting a lot more better. She's a lot more adamant in her pressure fighting. Her striking is getting a lot more better. Leonardo is becoming a lot more uncomfortable with fighting with Liz Tracy near the pocket, and she's struggling trying to get inside the pocket. So I thought, okay, Tracy, according to the judges, she won the first round, and the way how I see it right now, she should win the second round. That didn't happen. Apparently Leonardo won the second round. And I thought to myself, how? Because Tracy got a takedown, but Leonardo also got a takedown. So they both get two takedowns, and the opposition stood up immediately after the takedown. So they should both equate out. And worse yet, Liz Tracy could have got a submission victory onto Leonardo, but Leonardo got out of it. So how do you score that? Then you have to score with the striking. But Tracy did a lot more better in the striking in the second than she did in the first round. but she ended up losing in the second round. What the heck? I'm getting tongue-tied here because I am just confused. I don't get how this works. Commentary team, this really was the beginning. This is the beginning as to how the commentary team throughout every single fight from this moment on is like, how the heck did the judges score like this? Oh man, hopefully this fight ends soon because you don't want the judges to do this. And wow, man, the judges are very, very questionable. I swear, every time in the bottom left hand of the screen they show the judges' scorecards, you hear the commentary team being like, alright then, here are the scorecards. And... really? That's how they scored it? I don't know, man. And they repeated that over and over again for the third round, for every single concluding round in every fight. Even with Rika Tabrusio against Jessica Delboni, even though we know Delboni was winning that fight, when the scorecards popped up, you still have that weird like sound coming from the commentary team, because even they themselves are puzzled about it. And then we get to the third round here. Third round was very back and forth. I really couldn't decide on who would actually win this fight. I was like, it was a very, very close one at this point already. I was so irritated about the judges' scorecards, and the commentary team were not helping because they were also puzzled and complaining about the judges' scorecards. So both fighters, they're striking based off eye test and fight stats. Victoria Leonardo won the striking exchange in the third round because the best round Tracy had was the second round, but that wasn't good enough to go nab her the win. And so she didn't replicate the tenacity and the pacing, the pressure she had in the first and second round to the third round. So Victoria Leonardo, just off being consistent, should have won the third round. And then we get to judges' decision. Commentary team are like, oh man, here we go. Judges scoring. What's going to happen here? Victoria Leonardo wins via unanimous decision. And I agree. I agree that Leonardo should win the fight. I just don't agree how the judges scored this, because what the heck? No. Just no. Tracy won second. Leonardo won first. Leonardo obviously won third round. That's how it went. I don't know how judges score these fights, but it's bizarre, man. It is bizarre. And then we have here the opening fight. We have Helen Peralta versus Jennifer Chang. Helen Peralta had a 24-hour notice in this fight. Peralta throws in some really nice leg kicks. By the way, Jennifer Chang, man, she looks super young. What the heck, man? She looks younger than my older sister. And she, I don't know, man. I don't know. It was like, Helen Peralta looked a lot more older than Jennifer Chang. I don't know what's up with it, though, but like it really puzzled me. Because like they showed like height, weight, what the weight class is, what the reach is, and I see Jennifer Chang. I'm like, oh my goodness, you look like you would be like a college student, and like you're 34. Wow, impressed. So Peralta's throwing in these like really nice looking leg kicks. I don't know what the strategy was for Jennifer Chang. I don't know what she was trying to aim for. I didn't get what her win condition was. Peralta throws leg kicks. Jennifer Chang ain't checking anything. She's just leaving her kicks out there to be checked, and she herself is not really throwing any leg kicks. She has this base boxer stance, which isn't all that good in MMA, because when you're fighting somebody who's really good at leg kicks, you can't really counteract that with a traditional boxing stance. So Peralta goes in for a clinch. She does some nice dirty boxing. Peralta gets a leg trip on Jennifer Chang, goes for a ground and pound, and first round, Helen Peralta obviously, definitely, 100% dominated Jennifer Chang. The only reason why they're not 10-8 rounds is because I think the judges were just nice. They're like, you know what? It'd be too much if we give it like 10-8. Let's do 10-9. And so Peralta, once again, hit some really good leg kicks. And there's a one point in this fight where, for some reason, Helen Peralta attempted a spinning back fist from distance. Like, she barely even... It's weird. She moved forward, spin around, spun her arm around for a spinning back fist, but she was nowhere near Jennifer Chang. Not only was she nowhere near Jennifer Chang, somehow she like contorted her body to the point that Chang was like to her right. It was weird. that was a super risky thing, but she had so much confidence in herself that she could handle whatever Chang gave that it just didn't really matter. And so Peralta pressures Chang yet again with clinch work. And I wrote down here 4.5 consecutive minutes of Peralta grinding out Chang with dirty boxing. Peralta gets some nice haymakers, then tosses Chang to the ground like a proper ragdoll, man. Chang is ragdolled to the ground and is saved by the bell. Because Peralta, she's hitting these dirty boxing. And here's the thing. One of Chang's arms is tied up by Peralta. But Chang isn't even using her free arm. So Chang has this free arm here. And what you're supposed to do is supposed to grab onto the other person's other arm, and then hold them down and apply pressure on them so you have control. But obviously, out of the two, the commentary team said to themselves that Helen Peralta was significantly the much more stronger, much more physically dominant fighter out of the two. So Chang has one arm being hooked in. She can't really use the other arm for reasons unknown because she's not strong enough to handle grab on to Peralta. And so Peralta's laying down these hard hitting left shots, these hard hitting left hooks from dirty boxing. And then she gets hip tossed. And then Chang gets saved by the bell. So yeah, Peralta wins first round. She wins second round. With the way how this fight is going on right now, I don't see Chang making the miraculous comeback here. Chang looks tired. She looks gassed. Her legs are being kicked in. She's not checking any of the leg kicks. Peralta replicates what she did in the first and second round with her clinch work. She goes in, pressure Chang, dirty boxing in the cage, and I pull it here. Helen Peralta wins the fight via unanimous decision, dominant victory. That was a dominant victory there. Absolute domination by Helen Peralta. Okay, I understand Jennifer Chang, according to the commentary team, they're like, oh, you know what, Jennifer Chang, she was preparing to fight some other fighter. She was supposed to go fight another fighter instead, but instead she's going to be fighting, somebody as good of a striker who fights very differently in Peralta. I get it, but Peralta only had 24 hours to go and prep up for this fight. Not only that, while Chang had significant time of training, Peralta only had 24 hours, and she had to weight cut. That's why it was a catch weight fight. Chang came in at 114, while Peralta came in at 119. So yeah, Peralta was a much more bigger fighter, but still, Chang had prep time. They both had equal levels amount of prep time, but it was a lot more harder on Peralta because Peralta had only 24 hours of impromptu time to go prep up compared to Jennifer Chang, where she was prepping up for somebody else. But now she's prepping up for Peralta, but she still had prep work. She still did some prep work. So she should have been more ready to go in the octagon, and she looked ill-prepared, and she just wasn't ready for Peralta. And so that was Invicta FC 42. Right after a short break here, I'll be covering some more MMA news right here at the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So I was discussing Invicta FC 42, a really fun show from top to bottom, and I recommend people to go watch it. It's only $9.99 on the UFC Fight Pass, only $10. You don't have to legally stream it, guys. Letting you know that. Just $10 only, and you got a lot of content off UFC Fight Nights. So I'll be discussing the recent UFC Fight Night event that came up. It was UFC Fight Night Colby Covington vs. Tyron Woodley, to which I said it was a boring main event. It was not enjoyable. The entire card, though, we had Donald Cerrone versus Nico Price, Khamzat Chimaev against Joe Macharts, Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann, Kobe Covington versus Tyron Woodley. The card was full of really good fights. Kevin Holland versus Darren Stewart. But the main event, though, Covington Woodley, it's kind of... I would rather have Nico Price versus Donald Cerrone be the main events. But you know what? I'll be talking about the girls here. We had Mackenzie Dern against Randa Markos. So, for some reason here, while I was looking at the betting odds, the betting odds are really close. It was very close for Markos and Mackenzie Dern. And for me, I thought, why is it really close in the first place? Mackenzie Dern has to be the best jiu-jitsu grappler currently right now in the women's strawweight division for the UFC. Yeah. That's what I'm saying right now. I wouldn't say she's the best grappler. I would say Carla Esparza would have to be the best grappler in the women's strawweight division. But in terms of being able to grapple, in terms of being able to the ground and submit people, without a doubt, Mackenzie Dern has to be the best grappler in the women's strawweight division. Her striking, though, leaves a lot to be left desired. So Mackenzie Dern, she was able to defeat Randa Markos via armbar submission victory in the first round, 3 minutes and 44 seconds in. Congratulations, good for you. Her striking leaves a lot to be left desired because Mackenzie Dern here, last time we saw her, she fought against Hannah Cifers. And Hannah Cifers bullied her way to striking Mackenzie Dern. But good thing for Mackenzie Dern, though, is that Hannah Cifers has little to no knockout power, and her striking isn't all that threatening. So Dern was able to take a plethora of shots from Cifers, and she was able to battle through it, though, because unlike the top fighters in the top of the division here, from Weili Zhang, Rosam Yunus, Jessica Andrade, even Claudia Cadella, Marina Rodriguez, a lot of these strikers, if they were to do the same thing what Hannah Cifers did to her, she would have lost. She would have. But she fought against Hannah Cifers, an easier opponent for her. Her striking didn't look good in that fight. But how did her striking do in this fight here? So, bell rings. Both of them are feeling each other out with their striking. Randa Markos is putting the pressure on Dern. But then when Dern tried to dictate the pace of the fight, she tried to apply the pressure on Randa Markos. She goes in for a 1-2 punch combination and then throws this high kick. A kick that was so high that Mackenzie Dern had no control over, that she ended up leaving the ground and then fumbling her way back to the ground. It's the equivalent of me attempting a super kick or a high kick. It's happened to me where my mind was thinking, okay, I'm going to attempt the highest kick possible. I'm going to try to go and aim for a high kick, like a high thrust kick, as if I was trying to go get a high kick on somebody who's 6'5", 6'6", because I'm 5'11", I'm 5'11" 3/4", almost 6 foot, and I tried attempting this high kick that if it were to connect to somebody, at the very most, it would connect to somebody who's about 6'5", 6'6". I went for the kick, and as if somebody threw a banana to me, like somebody threw a banana on the ground, or it's like Mario Kart, like someone throws like a banana on the ground and the cart starts spinning, or the best example here. Best example is Charlie Brown. I think Lil Susie. Lil Susie has a football. Charlie Brown runs forward. He tries to go for this kick on the football, and then he somehow misses the football, floats up in the air, and then he just tumbles over to the ground. That's what I did. That's what happened to me when I went for a thrust kick, and that's what happened for Mackenzie Dern. She went for this kick, got to the air, fell to the ground. The commentary team are like, all right, then Dern for a kick, and then now they're grappling now. So Dern looks shocked. She looked confused. Randa Markos looked confused. Referee has his hands on his hips. Randa Markos slowly, very slowly, gets on Mackenzie Dern's guard. And then Mackenzie Dern was able to reverse her and work her way towards an armbar. So, without a doubt, Mackenzie Dern, she is a great grappler. She is really good in the ground game, in the submission game. She would be perfect to fight somebody like a Carla Esparza or a Claudia Cadella, because both of those are capable of grappling. She'd be a great opponent for someone like Michelle Waterson. But gosh darn it, Mackenzie, you're a great grappler. You're a great submission expert. You're really good. But gosh freaking darn it, man, she can't keep making these mistakes. She just can't. Now, Dern was lucky that... Okay, look, let's be honest here. So, let's say Mackenzie Dern were to fight somebody like a Carla Esparza, alright then, who would be a lot more difficult, who is, at least in my opinion, the best grappler in the entire women's strawweight division. If Dern went for the Charlie Brown up high kick, and if she falls on the floor, Esparza is going to work her way there. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern can pull off, a submission from the bottom, because Mackenzie Dern, I think she was able to, she did like an omoplata to an armbar, like she did a really good submission move onto Randa Markos. But man, her striking needs to be worked on. It really did, because she's allowing herself to go. Because in the short time frame that she fought, that she was standing up with Randa Markos, Markos putting a lot of pressure on her. And the ironic part, Dern has a long reach. She's big. She is definitely a big strawweight. I say Mackenzie Dern would be perfect for the women's flyweight division. Easily. But she's got a couple things to go work on. And if she can work on those things... Here's the thing. The commentary team were hyping up Mackenzie Dern. And the fact, because she's pulling up these armbar submission victories. One in Cypher. One in Randa Markos. She's now being compared to Ronda Rousey. Hopefully, Dern's push... And right now, currently she's 9-1 in her MMA career. 4-1 in her UFC career. She's just right above Amanda Ribas, who is the only woman to go defeat her. So right now, I'm looking at these two people, Amanda Ribas and Mackenzie Dern. They're both fighters to look out for the future. I believe that these two fighters, by the middle of 2021, are gonna be within top 8 to top 6. That's what I believe. I think they're that talented, and them along with Marina Rodriguez can go surpass the Nina Ansaroffs, the Carla Esparzas, and the Tatiana Soreses. I believe that they're that good. But now, we gotta wait. And speaking of waiting, it's been rescheduled yet again. Claudia Cadella and Yan Xiaonan. Their fight was supposed to happen, I think about a month back. Was supposed to happen this month. And now, instead, they're going to be fighting in November. November 7, Claudia Cadella versus Yan Xiaonan. Now, that fight is finally going to happen. But one fight that's very interesting to me would be Amanda Ribas versus Carla Esparza. Carla, man, you are... I don't know who you pissed off or who you angered here, but you pretty much are playing the journeyman role here. You're there. Because Esparza has nothing to gain but everything to lose if she were to lose to Amanda Ribas. And this is a tough matchup here, man. Tough matchup. Because Amanda Ribas can also grapple. She has a black belt jiu-jitsu background. She can handle herself against Esparza. And also her striking game is also incredibly underrated. He was able to go out to Mackenzie Dern, who is one of the best grapplers in the entire division. So, Amanda Ribas and Carla Esparza, I'm placing my money right now on Ribas. I'm going to place my bets on her right now, because what I believe... So, these two are going to be facing each other December 12th, 2020. What I believe is that Carla Esparza, yet again, she's going to try to be reckless in this fight. She's going to go all in, because that's what she was trying to do for the Marina Rodriguez fights, in that a lot of people pegged Carla Esparza down for her really disappointing performance against Michelle Waterson, and her really boring performance against Alexa Grasso. And she definitely fought a lot more exciting against Marina Rodriguez, but she didn't get the finish. And so, I think Carla Esparza, she will attempt yet another finish on Amanda Ribas, and Ribas is going to catch her. And in the end here, it's either going to be Carla Esparza tapping out, or Amanda Ribas slowly picking apart Carla Esparza, because Carla Esparza is going to be too reckless, and Esparza is not going to find the opening she needs to go win the fights. So that's how I see between Ribas and Carla Esparza right now. I say, I don't know what's up with Claudia Cadella and Yan Xiaonan, but I pick Ribas. I think this is definitely her time. And Carla Esparza right now being stuck at the gatekeeper role where she's really desperate, trying to go get a huge, finish victory. It might lead to mistakes. So that's why I pick Ribas winning the fight. And so this right now coming in from BloodyElbow.com. After a win at UFC Vegas 11, Mackenzie Dern says she's definitely a contender. Mackenzie Dern subbed Randa Markos in UFC Vegas 11 on Saturday. This is being written in by Tim Bissell. So 15th ranked UFC strawweight Mackenzie Dern earned a performance of the night bonus on Saturday night at UFC Vegas 11, submitting Randa Markos with an armbar finish in the first round. That was a Brazilian's second submission in a row. She beat Hannah Cyphers by knee bar back in May. After her win over Markos, Dern spoke to the media about her performance and what it means for her going forward in the flyweight division. In the flyweight division or strawweight division? Make up your... It's weird. I think... Is she competing in both divisions? I know Amanda Ribas is aiming for being a double champion and that she believes she can go and compete for both divisions here. So I guess Dern's also the same. I definitely think I'm a contender, said Dern at MMA Fighting, but I have so much to get better at and so much to evolve, and I'm so excited to try all these new things and be so complete as a fighter. I think any person they give me, I'm going to show something new. On top of the UFC's 115-pound division is the undefeated Weili Zhang. Gosh darn it. Oh man, whoever wrote this, man, yeah, they got the... It's so weird. So it says here, yeah, she's the 15th ranked best strawweight in the division. But she's also looking forward towards the flyweight division. Huh. So Dern became a pro back in pro MMA for 2016 after a stellar and multi-gold medaling career in BJJ. After a bout to LFA Invicta, she joined the UFC back in 2018. She goes on to say that I hope that people are kind of like, okay, she's here to make some noise and be a problem in the division. She really is, to me, the future of the division. There's a lot of stock right now going for right now. And I believe with the right training, Mackenzie Dern can truly be a dangerous person in both the flyweight division and the strawweight division. And so coming up this Saturday is both my birthday, yay me, and also UFC 253. With the main event being Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. We got Dominic Reyes versus Jean Blachowicz in the co-main event. Kai Kara France against Brandon Royval. Killian Vieira against Ciara Eubanks. And Hakeem Dawood against Sabera Turkogov. And really enough, though, Ciara Eubanks is coming in as the huge underdog against Killian Vieira. And I'm surprised about that. Because this fight should be really close here. I wouldn't be surprised if Eubanks were to pull off the victory here. Actually, I'm placing my bets right now on Eubanks. I guess because Vieira is 10-1 right now, and she's had a better string of victories over a lot amount of time compared to Eubanks. But Eubanks, there's a recent interview where she came out where she says that this truly is a David versus Goliath fight. And, whoa, Ciara Eubanks should be fighting the bantamweight division. Whoa. I would say Ciara Eubanks, she fights way more bigger than she actually looks. So Eubanks versus Vieira here. I'm say Eubanks will win this one, but there's a reason why Vieira is coming in as a favorite here. And Eubanks knows that this is an underdog fight for her. And this is what I always say about the world of mixed martial arts. Anything can happen in any time. And in a sport where there's a lot of history of underdogs always winning, I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that Ciara Eubanks ends up winning here. Now, do I want Ciara Eubanks to win the fight? Of course. Definitely. I'm a Ciara Eubanks fan. Now, how likely is it that she will win her fight against Killian Vieira? I'm not really sure. You gotta order the pay-per-view yourself to find that out. So once again, this Saturday you have UFC 253. Order it, and you have been a great audience today. All I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to this show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.